Hi, welcome to the latest installment of the Infinite Wealth video newsletter. The series is designed to share useful information about how money works that banks and Bay Street do not want you to know. I'm going to quickly share my screen here. I'm going to show a question. So, share this question. If I had an opportunity that has no liquidity, no growth potential, and gets riskier every day, how interested would you be? Now, this question revolves around mortgage analysis, which I'm going to do next. Here, I'm going to show you the differences between an accelerated mortgage and uh, pushing it out as long as possible. So I'm going to reshare my screen with loan analysis here. You should be able to see it now. And I'm going to use a $500,000 loan balance, 3-year interest or 3% interest rate, 15 years or 180 months. Over here, we're going to do the same balance of $500,000, 3% for 360 months or 30 years. So we're looking at 15 years versus 30 years. And the payments are 34.52.91 on the 15 year and 21.08.02 on the 30 year. Now, when we look at this, let's compare the compound costs. So the loan number one, over 15 years, you pay $621,523. Loan two, $758,887, and that's total, including the $500,000 loan. So the difference here is 121,000 of interest here versus 258, almost $259,000 interest over here. So at first glance, the interest is definitely lower than loan one than loan two. But is the cost any less? And that's what we'll analyze now. So first thing to do is let's look at, I'm going to reshare my screen and show you a future value calculator. And what I'm going to do here, first I actually asked the question, if 15 years is better than 30 years, would it not follow that paying cash or no interest at all would be the best option? So let's look at that. So $500,000 you take out of your savings. So we have to look at that over 30 years with the same assumption. So 3% interest over 36 months, that's a cost of $1,228,421. So let's look at that in comparison to, we got payment over here of 210802. So let's look at that. So zero here, monthly payment of 2108.02. Lo and behold, 1.228421. Now, because this one is only 180 months versus 360, can't show it directly on this future value calculator, but what I can show you on this loan calculator is the net savings results. So if we put in 3% here, 3% here, go figure, the exact same number comes out again, and I'm not sharing that. So hang on here, I reshare my screen. Apologize. And I have to bring up my loan analysis screen again. Okay, so if we look at this again, what I had entered there was right here. So 3% for net savings. So this loan cost over 30 years is $1.228,421, as is the 30-year mortgage of 2108 and the total cost of $1,228,421 over 30 years. So we look at the time frames exactly, keep the cash flows the same. All these numbers come out exactly the same. Let's take this a step further. So on the surface, you have cash, you pay cash, you don't mortgage, is exactly the same as taking a 30-year mortgage, again, same time frame, or exactly the same as a 15-year mortgage, pushed out to 30 years, same time frame, exactly the same. Absolutely. But there are a couple of things to keep in mind. And this goes back to the question I asked earlier, which we'll get back to in a second. But the first thing I want to show you here is the effect of inflation. So if we take a present value calculator, share that, should be able to see a present value calculator now. And let's just look at the monthly payment of over the 30-year period. So the 2108.02. Since we know all of them are exactly the same, We can use this one because it's a 30-year payment. So what's a 30-year payment with if inflation is 3% and the years are 30, that payment is the same as $868 in today's dollars. So what that means is the 2108 that you're paying today is going to feel like 868 in your pocketbook come 30 years from now because of a 3% inflation rate or 3% average inflation rate. Again, if inflation is higher, look at this at 4, then that goes down even further. Or if it's less, if it's 2%, it's still about half of what the payment is over a 30-year period. So in effect, what we realize here is that debt is a hedge against inflation. Okay, now let's go back to the question. So stop this share and go back to our original question, which is, if you had an opportunity like this, no liquidity, no growth, gets riskier every day, how interested would you be? I suspect that not many people would be. But in effect, when you take out or pay cash for a house or shorten your mortgage or make extra payments on your mortgage or accelerate the payment in any way, this is in effect what you're doing. Why? The no liquidity part takes a little bit of discussion. So let's just talk about that for a second. Yes, you could potentially have a secured line of credit against your house, and that line of credit is available to you. So there would be some liquidity. But how much control do you have? So for instance, if you lost your job and needed to go apply for that line of credit, the bank will not give it to you. But let's just say when you do take it out, you are working, but now the bank has tightened its lending policies and decides to take it away from you or increase the interest rate or reduce the amount of line of credit. All these things are out of your control. So it could potentially be completely illiquid, the equity in your house. No growth potential. So let's talk about that. So if your house is going to grow in value, the amount of debt you have against that is irrelevant to the growth potential. So in effect, by this opportunity being paid off house or whatever, there is no growth potential to that. It's riskier every day. This one here is a little bit more difficult for people to kind of see right away. But if you understand that every time you make a payment on the principal of the mortgage, you're actually reducing the bank's risk, not yours. And what I mean by that is a bank lends you money based on the value of your house. If the debt is smaller, then if they have to foreclose on your house, that's easier for them to get their money back out of it and just sell your house. For instance, if you have this $500,000 house, let's just say it's a $500,000 house, you could have it fully in full debt of 500 versus zero debt of paying cash. The $500,000 owing is in the way of foreclosing if you run into problems making payments. Whereas and zero balance obviously wouldn't be the same, but you wouldn't be able to feed yourself. But if you had a smaller balance of $1 or $2 or $300,000, it's a lot easier for a bank to say, okay, we're done with this if you can't make payments. Why? Because we can easily get our money out of this. So the idea of you paying down the mortgage every time you make that payment, it's that equity is not yours until the mortgage is gone. So in effect, you reduce the bank's risk, not yours. In fact, you increase your own risk by having that lack of liquidity. If you have the longer payment stream and save the difference, ideally, when we look at our example of the 3,400 versus the 2,100, there's about a $1,340 difference there. If you just save that on the side and you run into problems, you get in an accident, lose your job, get sick, or whatever, you're going to have cash on the side to make sure that you can actually meet your payments with a short-term break in your ability to pay. Whereas if you have no other resources and you're making as big a payments as possible and something happens like a lost job, bank is not going to be very forgiving. All they worry about is their own money. Again, to hear more about this or to find out many ways that money can work for you instead of against you, scottgannon.com is my website. Book me through there, or you can call me directly at 902-478-2620. That's 902-478-2620. And I can be emailed at scott@scottgannon.com. Thanks and have a great month.